I don't think I ever saw any of them personally. I think it might have been earlier in his tenure when he was particularly young. I've always gotten along with Miguel, and not like we're close or anything, because we're not. And I've written some stories about Miguel on his personal life, and even the one with the child and the paternity and stuff, that was written over an off season. And so I'm like, well, this is going to be interesting when I see Miguel for the first time at Comerica Park, and what's his reaction going to be. And he's always been very cordial, very nice to me, even after that. Like, like the first time I saw him after that story ran, I saw him in the clubhouse, and he knows who I am. Because I actually wrote a cover story for American Airlines magazine, of all things, on Miguel Cabrera. So he knows who I am. I mean, I've been around, so he's been very nice to me. I've always gotten along with him, but he's a child. He's very much, and that's cool when he's on the field and he's interacting with the fans, like that fan in Cleveland when when the fan's yelling to him, and the young fan, and he's yelling back, and he gives him his batting gloves. And there's so much good that comes with Miguel acting like a child, because people like to talk about the youthful part of the game, and it's baseball, it's a kid's game. But it also, flip side, he can turn very, very, very angry in a hurry, and tantrum in a way without, going off. But he can flip like that, like a child can. So I think that's just his persona. I've always gotten along with him. I've never had issues with him.
Fast forward to, we're back in present day. We talked about Chris Ilitch and whether or not we're buying that he's ever going to get this together and keep his word on his end of the deal. I have long expressed skepticism that even if Chris Ilitch keeps his word, we are at the mercy of your buddy Avila, who he's the most media-friendly GM in the history of sports, probably, right? I mean,
less so than he used to be.
You could call him right now, and he would go on the air with us. I bet. I bet he would.
Probably not, but he would take my call, but he wouldn't go on the air with you.
You don't think so?
Probably not.
If you asked him to, I bet he would.
Maybe.
He is the most media-friendly, which is a good thing, I guess. I mean, I don't know. There's something to be said for being a little bit more of a poker player, too, but he's not that. I mean, he's cards out on the table. But what I said is that even if Chris Ilitch is the one that's going to come through and spend money, at least at a moderate level, do we want Avila to be the one to make these decisions? Because we have seen him with deep pockets once. And what did it yield? Mike Pelfrey, 2 years, $16 million. Mark Lowe, a ridiculous contract.
Right.
The worst contract in Detroit sports history, Jordan Zimmerman.
Yeah.
So we've seen him with deep pockets.
That's the worst contract in Detroit?
What's worse? What's worse?
I don't know. The Prince Fielder one was pretty bad.
Prince Fielder produced for a couple years on that, did he not?
Yeah, he did, but it was still pretty bad.
I'm not saying it was good.
They're paying him. I mean, they were paying him into retirement.
Not saying
it was pretty bad.
Not saying it was good, but you got two really.
You got production.
You got 2 years of production. 1 year really good production. He contributed to a World Series team, so he won a pennant in part because of him. And you still traded some of that contract. I know they had to eat some of it for Kinsler, who contributed to some decent Tiger teams too. Not saying it was good.
No. I'd say the Zimmerman one was obviously a complete bust. But I bet if you looked in Detroit sports, you'd find some other bad contracts.
I'd bring it. Find some other bad contracts. You won't find one worse than that. I've
with
litigated
how
this.
bad he's been. I mean,
he's unusable.
It was a bad signing. That was a bad signing from the get-go. I don't think there was anybody, I would hope not, that was waving the flag of celebration over Jordan Zimmerman, because, I mean, his analytics were sharply on decline when they signed him. So that was a bad deal from the get-go, but it has turned out to be a disaster.
It reminded me of like a worse version of the Dontrell Willis deal when they first traded for him, and all his numbers were down. And it's like, here's 3 years and $36 million. It's like, why? Like, where's the fire on re-signing him?
Right.
I mean, he was a mess.
That was a bad one.
Terrible. And this was worse because it was double the term and triple the money.
Right.
But anyway, okay. I think it's the worst contract ever. You think it's
you
think it's a great contract?
It might be.
It's one of the 10 worst. It does.
It's up there.
We're in the weeds here.
It's turned into a disaster.
It's bad.
Yeah.
The point is that he was bad with the money. I don't care whether it's the worst contract, the fifth worst contract. It doesn't matter. We're getting lost. The point is he was an absolute nightmare when he had money to spend. we've talked about Chris Ilitch. We don't know if he's going to spend. We've seen Avila, I think, acting competently. He totally misplayed the Michael Fulmer hand. He has completely botched Matthew Boyd. Completely botched. Where you had reports on CBS, you had reports on ESPN, you had reports all over town, every reputable baseball source there is, saying that teams were knocking on the door for Matthew Boyd last year in the middle of the year when his numbers were through the roof. He was a phenomenal, one of the 5 best pitchers in the American League. Everyone was trying to get him. And the report comes out that he's asking for Gleyber Torres, a 22-year-old budding superstar shortstop for the Yankees, who's under team control to like 2035. It was an insane valuation of his player. Anyone with a brain, I was banging the drum. Pull up the tweets, Tony. Banging the drum saying, trade him, take what you can get. Mm-hmm. His 2 months was a total outlier from everything he had done. He's 28, 29 years old. Trade him, strike while the iron's hot. He didn't. Now Boyd is lost. He's a mess. I think we have demonstrable evidence that Avila is a bad GM. He was bad with money. He's bad on a budget. He has miscalculated this entire rebuild from every step. And I am not going to give him credit. Oh, look at the farm system. The farm system. Farm system is ranked high because of Casey Mize, who anybody would have taken 1-1. Because of Spencer Torkelson, who anybody could have taken 1-1. I could have the Diet Coke can in front of you manage that team and have them finish last place and then just take the top-rated guy on the board. You don't get credit for that. A monkey could do that. I'm not giving him credit for that. I will give him credit when he starts hitting on second, third, fourth round guys, when he signs somebody that pops out of nowhere. Like we saw Dombrowski make trades left and right.
Right.
That worked out. Do you have any faith in this guy? I know he's your buddy. I know you guys text every day.
You should know that I don't have very many buddies in the Detroit.
Well, it's because you're not very nice to anybody. That's why. Well, it's because you're a fair reporter. I think it would be a problem if you had friends. But I'm teasing you. I'm just saying because he's so media friendly.
He is media friendly. I have less faith in Avila, obviously, than I did when he took over. I liked him replacing Dombrowski for a couple reasons. One, selfishly, we were going to have more access, obviously, to Avila than we had to Dombrowski. That said, Dombrowski would always return your call too, but he just wouldn't give you any. Where Avila will give you, he'll let you know what he's thinking. So that was we all were excited about that, and I liked his scouting background, and I liked the fact that he was from day one was talking about analytics. So those are the three reasons I liked the hire, and I had some faith from the get-go. And he, by the way, did, and we've talked about this before, he did pull the trigger on a couple Tigers trades under Dombrowski. It wasn't all Dombrowski making those trades. I mean, Avila got Fulmer. I mean, that was his trade. So, I mean, it's not like he has never made a trade in his life. Now, I have much less faith because, again, we haven't seen him really hit on any free agents. The Pelfrey, Mark Lowe debacle, the Zimmerman Upton was fine. The problem with all that, with the Zimmerman and Upton stuff, was that should have been the start of the rebuild, that offseason. They shouldn't have spent the money on any of the guys. That should have been the beginning, and then it was Mike Ilitch's last shot to, throw a little bit more money and see if we can catch lightning in a bottle. And so they didn't start selling off those pieces till the summer of that year. So, yeah, I mean, I have much less faith because, like you said, they haven't really hit. I mean, you could talk about the farm system, and you could talk about the Skubals, and you could talk about the Mannings and the Burrows and the Mize and all. You could talk about all that until you're blue in the face. Until some of these guys start producing at the major league level, you can't give them credit for that. I mean, because you're right. Mize would have been taken by 29 other GMs, and so would Spencer Torkelson. So, you have to start producing, and he hasn't really done that. The Boyd stuff, I would agree that obviously you go and you try to get what you can for Boyd, but the problem is when you say get whatever you can, well, then you have this other sector of the audience that, bitches every time you make a trade and you don't get enough.
I don't care about the stupid sector. The stupid sector was mad about the Isaac Paredes trade, saying he didn't get enough for Avila.
Isaac Paredes, we found out, by the way. And he hit a grand slam.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. In the minors. But
they should have traded Matthew Boyd.
There's
no question.
Good.
Okay,
thank you.
There's no question. If you get a good enough deal, I'm not saying you trade him for two non-ranked single A prospects.
No,
okay?
nobody said that.
No, you got to get something for him. You have to also understand that if the guy doesn't have a track record and he has one good year, you're not going to get the cream of the crop. The Fulmer stuff, the trade with the Fulmer, and I've had this argument before. In hindsight, they should have traded Michael Fulmer. At the time, when people wanted to trade him, at the height of his Rookie of the Year season or in that off season, I would ask people, well, what do you hope to get in return? Because at that point, you would hope to get in return Michael Fulmer, or a guy who turns into what Michael Fulmer looks like. Now, the injuries later, of course you would have traded Michael Fulmer, but I would not have traded him at that time. Boyd, of course, because he had no track record. And it wasn't some stud prospect that came up that everyone was,
No. Fulmer, I think, is much more defensible. And I think it was mishandled, no question. But I get the hindsight aspect.
The good point someone made to me the other day when I was arguing with him about Fulmer, because he thought that they should have traded Fulmer, and I said, well, I think that that's a little short-sighted because, again, you're going to trade for prospects, and you hope that one of those prospects turns into a guy with the upside of Michael Fulmer. So what are you trading for? His argument was the Tigers weren't close to contending yet, and so therefore that's why you make that move, which I thought was a fair point. Because they were, because I told him, I said, well, if you're saying you should trade Michael Fulmer at the height of his value after his rookie season, then that means that you would have been fine trading Justin Verlander after his rookie season, and that would have been insane.
Yeah.
Well, but then he's like, no, the Tigers were contending then. They weren't about to contend under the early days of Fulmer. So I think that that's a fair point. I still wouldn't have done it, but I thought that was a fair point.
I can lay down the Fulmer thing. I'll lay down the sword on that. I would have moved him, but I understood why they didn't at the time, and I don't think it's egregious. I get that. The Boyd thing's egregious. Yeah. It's too late now. And no one ever said, it's the straw man stuff that people do. I swear to God, I want to strangle somebody, Tony. You can't just give away. You just wanted to give them away? Mm-hmm. Nobody said that. You would have gotten a top 50, top 60 prospect for him at minimum. That was out there. Those reports were out there that teams were offering prospects in that range. Not my reporting. That was out there. Somebody just common sense. Somebody would have given you the 60th best prospect in baseball for a guy that was that hot, still had team control. You weren't going to get Gleyber Torres. Right. You weren't going to get a top 10 guy.
You wonder if the ask was so high because of his previous trade and how perceived little return he got in the J.D. Martinez deal and the Nick Castellanos, Justin Verlander, and all these.
You think he's in his own head now?
Maybe that's why all of a sudden he's got this chip and now he wants to make a splash and it didn't happen. I don't know.
Oh, he blew it.
If you get burned before, maybe you'd reverse course and try to make up for it with another deal.
So now we got a GM that's scared and stupid. And so that's nice.
That. Now look, I'm not saying that. Avila knows way more about baseball than I do. I'll say that right off the bat. He does. I mean, he's been around the game, but some people are better. It's like in football. There are a lot of guys who are great assistant coaches who, when they become head coach, doesn't really pan out, and maybe they're better served as assistant coaches. And I wonder if that's the case with Avila. Because I think he was a good lieutenant. I think he did handle things well under Dombrowski. Maybe he wasn't meant to be the guy. So.
Yeah, maybe he's a good lieutenant is a good way to put it. I mean, the bottom line is the results speak for themselves. He's botched one thing after another. Good.
There's no question. I mean, you can't really point. Except for this offseason, I guess you could give him credit for Scope and Chrome, but those weren't deals to put you over the top. They were deals to plug in major league players while you groom some minor leaguers. You can't really point to very many moves that have necessarily worked out. And until we start seeing these guys from the minors, and by the way, these pitchers aren't all going to pan out. I mean, they have a lot of them. They need some of them to pan out. They're not all going to pan out. But until we see some of these young guys and some position players down there actually come up and pan out, then you're going to have a hard time believing that Avila is the guy for the job. But he got an extension last year, which was stunning to me when Chris Ilitch announced that.
Yeah, well, everyone else too. It was stunning to everybody.
Yeah, and that's where you look at Ilitch and go, wait a minute, Clearly, there's a lack of the fire from his father there because Avila got a 5-year deal to turn this thing around. if you get near the finish line of the rebuild and you see some of the fruits of the labor, then of course you extend a year or two. Like that would have happened this year if you see the progress.
Yep.
But it happened last year when there was no sign that they were close. It was just bizarre.
And no one understands it. And I don't understand a thing that's going on there, frankly. But
it was very strange. It came out of nowhere. Chris Ilitch didn't speak. Like it was weird. Chris Ilitch announced it and then sent Avila in front of the reporters. And we're just like, why did you get an extension?
Yeah.
I mean, that was literally our first question. Like, why did you get an extension? And it was unfair to Avila. He has to answer these questions by himself. Chris Ilitch didn't even take questions.
Just shoves him out the door. Yeah, go talk to him.
Yeah, you get an extension, and your punishment is you have to take this on your own.
Yeah. I don't know. If I were Avila, I'd probably take the deal. It's still better than he deserved, probably, from a business standpoint. But
he shouldn't have gotten an extension. They should have waited on that. I think this would be, you got a 5-year deal. What was it, August of 15? So this would have been coming up on 5 years. So, look, that's whatever. It didn't make any sense. And they didn't tell us how long the deal is, too, which is very weird.
It's been a bad 5 years for the Tigers. It's been rough. Really bad week for sports announcers everywhere. The Twitterverse is mad at everybody. There have been 2 examples in 72 hours. Thom Brennaman announcing for the Reds. Did you hear this clip, Tony? I think you did.
Mm-hmm.
Dropped a gay slur. Had a hot mic. Didn't realize he was on. He said it was about Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
And
call it the blank capital of the world.
Yeah.
Which I've been to Kansas City, and speaking as a gay guy, I don't think that's true.
Yeah, well, I can't speak to that. I've only been to Kansas City once. I didn't notice anything glaring.
They have great barbecue, I guess. But,
yeah. So that's good to know, coming from the expert here and everything. But having not been there more than once, I can't speak to that. But yeah, it's funny. Mike Milbury shoves his foot in his mouth too with this. Women kind of nagging you thing at the NHL. I don't know if you caught that too.
Yeah, I heard about it. I was reading actually about that on the way over.
Yeah, Mike Milbury, the poor guy, everyone hates that guy. He's like the most vilified announcer ever. I hate to say it, probably justified, but he's calling that the hockey game, and he's saying, these guys are in the bubble in Toronto. It's great. They can really focus on hockey. There's no women here to bother them and distract them. And the women's hockey verse, my friend Katie Strang, a fellow Michigan State alum, just lost her mind, which I get. I just, the Thom Brennaman thing, obviously, there
was Mark Grace too. He got suspended for a little bit.
People are dropping like flies around here.
Broadcaster, I think he made some comments about his ex-wife or something.
I don't think it's. Is it fair to call you a liberal, Tony? Is that you're of the left, right?
Yeah, of course.
So you're of the left. Yeah. You're a gay baseball writer, openly gay. Like everyone knows you're gay.
Mm-hmm. Not a secret. This is a big story. Nationally, it kind of crosses a couple paths for you. Thom Brennaman, the last I saw, was tentatively suspended. I know he was kicked off the air for the NFL, so he's off the NFL broadcast. It's sort of pending an investigation. I don't really know what there is to investigate. It happened. I mean, unless the theory is that he has like a secret anti-gay cult that he's running on the side that they're trying to uncover. I think we pretty much have all the facts in the case. Yeah.
Like, do you think, is there any coming back from that for Thom Brennaman? Like, as a gay guy in the baseball world, like, do you want this guy to burn, or is there any redemption for him?
To burn. I mean, I don't, frankly, I don't care if he loses his job or not. It's of no interest to me. And his apology was fine, and he gave it was one of the most awkward apologies in the history of the world. He gave it live on the air, and in the middle of it, Nick Castellanos, it's a home run.
It's the most unbelievable clip.
It was just the most bizarre thing. And his apology was fine, and he felt, he said, this isn't me, and everyone always says it's not me. Well, if you say it, it is kind of you. And the problem I had with it obviously the word is disgusting and despicable, but the bigger problem I had with it is if you watch the clip, and I saw on Twitter that, oh my God, Brennaman said this thing, and so I'm like, oh wow, he must have just got caught saying it on a hot mic, and I figured he would be whispering, the word, and that's what I expected to hear. But then I went to the video, and he said it with such conviction and such confidence that one, he's comfortable saying that word around his colleague.
Yes.
Which also means, 2, he's said that around his colleagues before. And so if there's no hot mic, there's no way this is ever going to get out, and it wouldn't be a story because his colleagues are clearly comfortable listening to him say that. That was a bigger problem for me. And then he comes out and, with the apology, this isn't me, it's never been who I am. Well, if you listen to the clip, you're pretty damn sure that is who he is because, I mean, when you say something that confidently, and all of your colleagues are in the truck, they're in the headsets, I mean, you got a bunch of people you're working with, and you clearly are comfortable saying that around them. That means you've done it before. And so that, the Reds can do what they want. I mean, I don't care if he loses his job. I don't have any strong opinions on him as a person. But if you really look at it, he was way too comfortable saying that was what bothered me more than anything.
It was not a slip. That's something probably worthy of distinguishing. I think I kind of fall right in the middle.
Because, for instance, all right, you hear athletes using that word in the heat of a game. Okay, it's not right, but I understand that more than what
Kobe got hit for it pretty hard too.
Than what I understand that. In the heat of a moment, you could say some stupid things. It's never right, but compared to this, where it was just like casual conversation, like a word he uses all the time. That's what it sounded like. That's different. So that really bothered me.
I'm in the middle on a lot of things, and I haven't really meditated enough on that one. But I think there's so much, like, just everyone talks about cancel culture. I absolutely believe that there has to be some pathway to redemption for people that make mistakes in this regard, make mistakes. I got in some trouble with people on your side of the aisle. I consider myself a moderate with the Ellen stuff, saying like, look, I don't know if all the stuff is irredeemable. I think if you're committing a crime against a child, if you're sexually assaulting someone, I don't think there's really any coming back from that for me in my eyes. No. I think if you make an inappropriate joke in front of a woman or something, I think it's wrong. I think you should be reprimanded. I think that should be corrected. I don't think your career should be over if you say, hey, looking good in that dress or something. Like, shouldn't say it at work, not excusing it. Probably shouldn't lose your whole career over it if, you correct the behavior. So I would, as a general rule, excluding crimes committed against people or perpetual behavior where you're terrorizing somebody or something like that, as a general rule, I like to see people get another chance, come back, and if the behavior is repeated, then okay, that's different. I'm of the opinion that there's not a single person on this earth, at least not that I've met, that hasn't at one point said or done something that had a camera been rolling, they would be done.
Oh, yeah.
I put me in that boat. I put you in that boat.
No question.
I haven't heard you say anything in front of me, Tony, but I'm guessing you have.
Yeah, there's no question.
Yeah, in a bad moment or whatever. So, I err on the side of not ending people's careers.
Well,
but
that's why, I don't. If he doesn't lose his job, I'm not going to be upset about it. I think that his apology and the whole "this is not me" thing is bullshit. I just don't.
That's okay to say too.
I just don't believe it. That's me. But it's not my place to say if he should lose his job. I'm like, whatever. I don't care. Look, I tend to the cancel culture is troubling on many levels because it's tough to weed out. Like, it's like, where is that line? And in this era, this day and age, it seems like everything leads to cancel culture, and so it's where is that line? There's been broadcasters who've come back. So
I want to wrap with this, and this is what I think. I had to take.
I guess I didn't ask you if I could swear on here.
Oh,
I
yeah.
apologize.
Yeah, no, you can.
My bad.
This is like the FCC's not watching us, so you can,
All right.
say fuck shit or whatever you want.
All right.
So I want to wrap with this, and I was fascinated with your whole take on the Blackwell, D'Antonio stuff up in East Lansing. You were all over that story. You took a beating for being all over that story. I know you are still are. Say that we can get into that.
Yeah.
You're sitting in a studio surrounded by Michigan State stuff, which I know is tough for you because, according to everyone on Twitter, you despise Michigan State. There's pictures of D'Antonio all over the place. You're out to get him. You hated him from day one.
Yeah.
This was Michael Rosenberg in the parking lot talking about Rich Rod. You had an axe to grind. You were ready to grind it. you hate Mark D'Antonio, you hate everything that is Michigan State, never mind the fact that you went there.
I have a degree from there.
And you have a degree from Michigan State.
Yeah.
So take us through it. You're covering the Blackwell D'Antonio story. I want you to give a little bit about what that story was about for the people that don't know, and your experience with the backlash from Spartan Nation with that, because I thought you were treated very unfairly.
Well, obviously, for those who don't know, I mean, it's a long, winding story. If you haven't checked it out, there's many components to it. But basically, Curtis Blackwell was brought in from the Detroit camp scene as like the guy who knows all the Detroit prospects. And so D'Antonio hired him, and he came in as a recruiting coordinator. And Blackwell made all these great gets. I mean, he got one right away. He was getting one prospect after another from Detroit to kind of commit. And so there's this pipeline that he set up from Detroit high school fields right to East Lansing. So for 3 years, it was all roses and gold stars for that relationship between him and D'Antonio. And then in January 2017, there was an off-campus party at the home of a Michigan State running back apartment, and 3 football players allegedly, didn't allegedly, they had some sort of sexual relations with a girl in the bathroom of that apartment. She alleged it was non-consensual. They obviously disagreed, but anyway, that was the start of this whole story, which basically Blackwell served as a recruiting coordinator, and he served as a mentor for the kids. That was kind of his thing. Like, he was kind of the buffer between D'Antonio and the players as far as working with the kids and making sure they're on the up and up. Well, he had a good relationship with them. Basically, what happened is that after this whole investigation shook out from the party, Blackwell was accused of obstructing the investigation and not handling it properly, not reporting it properly when he was talking to the kids. Basically, the cops were accusing him of obstructing and covering up. MSU ended up accusing him of just not reporting. He was supposed to report to the office of, the OIE office and the MSU police. He didn't do that because he said other people had done it. Blackwell basically said he took the fall because he was black at Michigan State, which only one person did lose their job over this incident, and it was Blackwell. D'Antonio has fired 2 assistant coaches in his entire tenure at Michigan State, Blackwell and an offensive line coach or something like that. And so that's kind of where it went, and it turned into this giant shit show in the court. And I tried to report as much as I could, both sides, not just off what I got in the court documents, but from interviews, hundreds of interviews, people that you never saw their name in the paper. And it ended up, the end result was that Blackwell did not win his case, but D'Antonio all of a sudden retired, which is weird. So I didn't get a lot of positive mail from the Michigan State community, but I thought I handled it as fairly as I could given the circumstances. It was newsworthy, and it was weird that I'm like the only reporter that gets hammered on this story, which was covered by ESPN, which was covered by MLive, which was covered by the Detroit Free Press, which was covered by The Athletic, but somehow I'm the only one that gets hammered on the reporting of it, which is fine.
Well, I think you had the most thorough reporting. Yeah, I was going to say you had the most
reporting. I think I did the most thorough. But every, the emails, I can't believe this is a story involved. It was a story in many media outlets. So it is what it is. People ask me, what do you have against D'Antonio? Nothing. I've only met the guy a few times. I mean, we've never had a one-on-one interview. I have nothing against Mark D'Antonio. This was a major case that was playing out, and there were some legitimate questions to be asked on how Michigan State handled the investigation into that party. And then 3 months later, the rape of Austin Robertson, of a woman off campus. And then it brings in the whole Austin Robertson recruiting stuff, which raised some pretty damning questions about D'Antonio and his credibility and his ethics and morals when you have assistant coaches who begged him and pleaded with him, and an athletic director who pleaded with him not to bring Austin Robertson on campus. And a year and a half later, he raped a girl. So there was no one angle on the story. It just turned into this big web of a bunch of different angles. It ended up leading to NCAA violation allegations, which are still pending. So So it gave me a lot of stress and headaches working on this story for a year and a half, 2 years. But part of the job. I have nothing against Michigan State or Mark D'Antonio.
Well, in my position publicly, which I know you saw,
right,
was it's newsworthy by definition. Journalism 101, you have a prominent figure suing a very prominent figure publicly in a spat with them. It's in court documents. That's newsworthy by default. Yeah. That is just the definition of newsworthy by any J school's definition of the term. Mm-hmm. And your reporting was simply, I'm going to talk to both sides. Here's this side, here's that side, here's what the court documents say. There was no editorializing on your part whatsoever. I tried to find a reason to hit you on it. I tried to find a reason not to defend you because I didn't want, I'll be honest, I didn't want to get into that pool because the water was hot. You were the only one in that pool, and the water was very uncomfortable in that pool. Yeah. But I got in the pool with you because I thought it was wrong what they were doing to you. You're being railroaded by the Michigan State fan base for just reporting what's out there and not making any judgments one way or another on who's telling the truth and who's not. I know you don't know for a fact because nobody but maybe 3 people do. Do you think that the Blackwell case, that whole incident, had anything to do with D'Antonio's retirement, the timing of it? It seems awfully odd if it's not involved.
Well, the timing of it was strange, given that just an hour earlier we reported about the NCAA allegation violation that came out as part of the court. And by the way, I just want to go back really quick. People bitched at that this isn't news, and I can't believe you're slinging all this mud and whatever. They have no idea how much stuff I left out of the paper. Okay, there was a lot of decisions made.
Is anything can be shared here? No, you can't share it here either.
No, but there was a lot of decisions made. So it wasn't like I just took everything I got from all the sources. Yeah. And by the way, I did have some sources on both sides. People think that it was just one side. The Blackwell side was more willing to talk publicly. The D'Antonio side was very much, we don't do this in the media. But then the D'Antonio side would get pissed off when the media would report what the other side was saying.
Yeah.
Well, you have your option to speak here too. So, yeah. And which they did run to MLive once. They wouldn't talk to me, but they got mad at something I wrote off the other side, and so they ran to MLive and gave them an interview. But that's what lawyers do. He resigned just like 45 minutes after we originally posted the story, I think, about the NCAA allegations, which, by the way, were not huge allegations. They were allegation that he and Blackwell were in the house of a recruit at the same time. Yes, that's a violation, not Mount Everest. There was that D'Antonio might have helped get employment for parents of recruits. Well, that's not great. We know that Harbaugh's done that before. I mean, it happens in college athletics. They're not huge things. So the short answer to your question of no, he didn't resign over the case, over the reporting or anything like that. But it was a factor. It was part of a big ball, if you will, of reasons why he, I think, walked away. I think that, first of all, his program had gone downhill. The recruiting had dried up. It was a lot of headaches that he was dealing with. You knew that it was going to be a few years before they are good again, at least, and that's if you recruit well. And so on field, I think, was trending very much downward. He's not a young man. I mean, he's not an old man, but he's not a young man in terms of a guy who's had a heart attack that ages you. I think that he was looking at that. And look, he got a $2.5 million bonus or whatever it was to stick around until January 15th. So I think that all the on-field stuff had worn on him. And I think he made that weird comment in November or October where he said, I'm going to be back and I'm going to finish what I started and I'm going to finish the circle. And I'm like, but that's not a 1-year thing. It's like a 4-year thing if you're actually going to finish it. And so I thought that was strange. And I think what ended up happening was that I think he started realizing that it was probably going to be a 4-year thing. He wasn't going to be able to offer that physically, mentally. So I think the on-field stuff was trending so down. And then the off-field stuff was piling up. I mean, I think that the lawsuit was certainly a headache for him, at the very least. I mean, he's being sued. He's having to give depositions. It's in the papers. He's got a segment of the fan base that's not happy with him. It wasn't all, supporting D'Antonio on this stuff. No. I got many emails from people at Michigan State who said, appreciate your reporting on, all this and whatever. So I think if you take it all, I think it just all wore on him, and I think he'd had enough. He knew he was getting his bonus. He knew he was going to get his golden parachute job in the athletic department, stick around for $1 million and basically do nothing. So he was set. He has a unquestionably very good legacy on field at Michigan State. I think it was just time, and it just so happened that it happened then. But it was strange that it happened then. But I think it was just the whole ball was just a factor. It played a small factor of the case, but mostly I'd say it was the on-field and the realization that this isn't going to be turned around soon, and I'm going to be 66, 67 by the time it is, and I can't commit to that.
No, there you have it. It's confirmed that Tony Paul despises Mark D'Antonio and is happy that he's gone and doesn't have to look at his stupid face anymore. It's confirmed for Spartan Nation. So, all right, Tony, we went over. I appreciate your time.
Did we?
Well, I try not to keep anybody for longer than 45 minutes, and you were so gracious with your time.
Is that it? That was easy. I thought it was going to be a lot harder.
You thought I was going to grill you?
Yeah.
It's funny. You should have seen Mike Sullivan when he was our first show with the new format, and I mean, Sullivan knows my history with a certain blog in town that I used to say not nice things about Mike Sullivan and some of his colleagues. So he's just like, "Hey, can we not go there?" And I'm trying to be a changed man, Mike. So, no gotcha questions, Tony. I think you did a great job and appreciate.
Thanks for having me to your beautiful studio. How long did this take you to build?
It's been over the course of 3 years, so piece by piece, and we did a great job with our friend Roberto, who's actually in his pajamas, as always, producing from home. I don't know. I think it was in Royal Oak or Ferndale or something. He's in his boxers with his laptop right now, running this whole board from home. So shout out to Roberto. Thanks for producing a great show as always. We are sponsored by the Michigan Peddler. Check them out, MichiganPeddler.com. Really good company. They got 1 million 5-star Google reviews. Tony, maybe you and I can go for a bike ride when Corona calms down a little bit. And I know you're.
When is Corona gonna?
Tomorrow. Let's just make it tomorrow. Let's call it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. It's weird. Well, we'll see what happens after November with the election and stuff. I think that.
Oh, you're one of those people that thinks it's going to go away November 4th.
I buy the conspiracy theory. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's a political issue.
Well, it is a political issue. That doesn't make it fake.
I never said it was fake.
Well, you call it a conspiracy theory.
No. I said I think the restrictions will lighten when the election comes. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory. I think it's a legitimate thing that is being leveraged and leaned into strategically by both sides to fit their narrative and to fit their agenda.
There's some of that, but I also think there's a whole lot that we just don't know. There's just a whole lot we don't know. And so if you don't know something, a lot of times you're going to err on the side of.
Well, and that's fine. That's what I've been saying from day one, that there's no experts with a novel virus. We don't know. Nobody knows anything, and that's what we've been preaching. So anyway, Tony Paul.
I thought you were going to ask me, by the way, today because we got into it a little bit about you don't think that the news and free press should be charging for subscription.
You want to get into that? We'll go into overtime. I mean, yeah, you're
by
right.
the way, you can go get we have this new thing. Let me just explain it.
Tease it. Go
we have
for
this new thing at DetroitNews.com and Freep.com. Where we've given you about 25 years of a free trial subscription, and we decided that the trial run has ended, and so we are now charging for what we call freemium content. So a lot of our in-depth stuff goes behind a paywall, and you can sign up at DetroitNews.com. It's right now $3 for 3 months. It's $1 a month. So just check it out, try it out. A lot of the good content is going to be behind that, and if this works, then it'll continue. If it doesn't work, we're going to have to try something else, which will probably be going, who knows, maybe we'll go to a full paywall or whatever. But we're trying something at DetroitNews.com, so just check it out. Give us your $3 for 3 months, not that much. And you don't think it's a good idea.
I subscribed, but I subscribed because you made me feel bad.
$3 for 3 months, that's why you subscribed.
I didn't say, no, I am not anti-subscription model. Right. What I said was I want to hear what you're going to do differently.
Right.
I can't be giving you a piece of bread.
Right. For 25
years and then suddenly start charging you $3 for the piece of bread without putting some butter on it or baking the crust a different way. I just give me something else. Say once a week, Tony Paul will come over and deliver a cupcake to your house or something. Give me something.
I'm not going
else.
to do that. So yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I also think that the newspaper industry is in some dire straits right now, and we have to try something. And whether it's doing this, whether it's going to a full paywall, whatever it is, we have to try something. Because as I put on Twitter, people love to bitch about the newspapers and they love to bitch about the media. You will miss your newspapers when they're gone. And I'll tell you why. It's if you lose your newspapers, and God love my friends in radio, and God love my friends in TV, but if you lose newspapers, there goes most of your TV content, there goes most of your radio content, there goes most of your news. And so newspapers are very vital. We're trying something here. Obviously, the coronavirus hit all industries hard. It hit the newspaper industry particularly hard with ad rates, which were already dwindling, or ad buys, which were already dwindling. They severely started dwindling when companies couldn't afford to buy them. So we're trying something different. But I hear you. The newspaper industry screwed itself, all right, when the internet came up. The newspaper industry decided, for some unbelievable reason, when the internet was made, that we're going to just give away our product that we're trying to sell you at the corner store. It made no sense then, but I think everyone was so excited about websites. And, oh, wow, we're going to have a website, that they forgot that if you put everything on there, then there's no reason to buy your product. So we screwed ourselves. There's no question about that. But we're trying to survive, and so we're trying something. I don't think this is the end of what we're going to be trying. I think there's a lot of ideas in the mix for all newspapers. I think MLive I think you're going to see them go to this eventually, some level of this. But if you like the news, sports coverage, which I would argue is some of the best sports coverage in the state, if not the best. Free Press, some good sports writers too. But if you like the coverage, it's $3 for 3 months. Try it out. If you don't like it, don't renew. No big deal. But yeah. I think it's worth. We got to do something.
Worth it just for Tony Paul.
This is their exactly right. This is their way of trying something.
It's worth it for you, Tony. And you got to try something. You got to get off the mat.
Well, that's the thing. Somebody made a good point the other day. I was reading on Twitter. This guy travels. I think he's a doctor or something, and he said he loves reading the local newspapers whenever he goes to a new town. He loves checking out the local news, and but now every local news site is starting to go to a paywall. And obviously, if you travel over the country, you can't buy 1,000 subscriptions. He made a point about coming up with some sort of gold card where you basically buy this subscription for a year and it gets you access to a network of newspapers, which I thought was kind of interesting too. So I think that newspapers are going to try a lot of different things in the coming years to survive. I think it's amazing that Detroit still has 2 newspapers, and I think it's great that Detroit still has 2 newspapers. So give us your $3, man. Come on.
Go out and do it. Tony's asking very nicely. He shamed me on Twitter, and I did it.
There you go. I think I've gotten about 7 or 8 subscribers so far. So $21.
We'll get a few more. We'll get a few more.
All
so
right.
All right, Tony. Appreciate it. You're the man.
Thanks for having me on.
I'd love to have you back. Did we scare you off? Are you going to come back another time?
I've been wanting to do this for a while, but it's been crazy times, and
you ran out of excuses, like you said.
Yeah, no,
so
that's not.
Yeah.
I never really made excuses. I just said no.
Never seen so many. You said no, or you had like 17 different uncles died. It was crazy.
That's not true. That's a lie. You're making that up.
Well,
I would never use a funeral as a reason.
Okay.
That you're making that up. Take it back.
I'm
going to sign your guest book now, though.
Yeah, sign my guest book. Get yourself out of here. Get yourself home.
Right.
Appreciate it. Thanks for everyone listening. We're packed the next couple of weeks. We're going to have John U. Bacon in pretty soon. DK Spartan, the top Michigan State blogger for my money out there. Really smart basketball guy. We're trying to get Chris Castellani in here. He's kind of big time. Like, he had 15,000 followers now.
Seriously.
He's too cool for me now.
His videos are good, man.
He's good. He's talented.
Those videos, I mean, if we could, I'd love to get the copyright to his videos for the news and put them on our website after every.
Well, that's good, but he's already got too big of a head. He won't come on my show anymore if you start offering him Detroit news spots.
Those videos are really good, though. He's really good.
He's a really talented guy, and it's just a matter of time he's going to pop. So if we're not too small for him, we'll get him in as well. So wherever you have been listening, thanks for making us part of your day. Spiro Avenue Show. We'll be back with a lot more. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to Roberto from his couch and his pajamas. We are out. Thank you to Tony Paul. Thank you to the Michigan Peddler for sponsoring.